Yahoo, Prof here, and this phone is getting quite a bit toasty. Toast. We just cracked open the Ghost in the Shell video game soundtrack vinyl, picture vinyl. Vinyls under here, picture vinyl, and CD. The tingling I got from nostalgia and remembering some of this stuff, and the type of packaging on here, and especially once opening this up. They somehow mirrored packaging that, as far as I'm aware, has been made for 25 years, probably. You know, at least. Or at least 20. We are, however, going to transition from that. If you're interested in Ghost in the Shell or just taking a look at nostalgia bait / like a re-release. Okay, so for example, you got to remember too, original Ghost in the Shell video game was PlayStation 1. So keep that in mind. If that's your era, or you're into anime from that era, or just want to see, I didn't pull it completely apart, but I go into some of the stuff. If you played PS1, especially early PS1 games, you'll recognize some of the packaging, or if you know what a picture vinyl is, where I showed you with the clear vinyl outer. Tingling, like I said. A little bit of a discussion about Ghost in the Shell itself as well, and why I think it is, or at least will always be one of my, if not, I wouldn't say one of my, it'll be my main, most favorite franchise of anime and related goods. This, probably shouldn't have ripped that open. No packaging on. Throw this over anyway. Paisley Marie, what are you doing? What are you doing down there? Okay, so what we have here is something we have opened before. You see a limited edition. Yes, sir, Doodle. It is Mark 1. I originally saw the Mark 1 products, and I don't have my pen Type-C. Let's grab the black one. And thought they knocked off this DLC-coded pen Type-C. And it looks so similar, right? Little silver gap about here. Finely machined sleeve. And I picked one up because it caught my eye. Here's my original Mark 1. I did get it, and I don't know that I should have. I got it with the rose gold clicker. If you want to know more about the actual quality of the pen, check out my video that I posted on the Mark 1, if it's up already. Kind of shit on it a little bit. And I go into their why. Some of the stuff that's on their website and used in marketing may have been true when this was initially made. I don't know that it especially is the case now. Right? Now imagine, like this. Now this is titanium. with DLC coating. This is just like a Cerakoted black. This was available with a silver top. I didn't really want it to match that much, so I purposely got the, like, they called it bronze or brass or something. It's like a rose gold, you know, like kind of like cheap chrome. Watch my video on the pen. Like I said, I feel like, I have a feeling that at least during the Kickstarter, it seemed to be made better. Like, they said this is one milled piece. It is very obviously not anymore. You can see a line right there. And it doesn't make sense to make this out of one piece. Even CW&T, when they make their pen type B, if I would call this pen type C, my bad. Hi-Tec-C is what it takes. Paisley, you're going to be disturbing the video if you keep doing that. Do you want to know what that sound is? Paisley, can you not let that cardboard box go? What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? Must you do that? And you're like, oh, why aren't you sitting and watching anime with us yet? Yeah. It's sit down time, and I'm not sitting down, guys. Well, I am, but not where they want. Like little kids, I tell you. But even CW&T with their pen type B, this is like the full titanium one. The original came with a brass outer and a stainless steel inner to kind of follow up on the pen type A. This is done as one tube. They drill it out, and then they actually heat up the tube, expand it, and cool down the end and shove it in there. And then that, like, I don't know if that would be brazing. I'm trying to think of what the term would be, but basically they shrink it in, right? Because that's much more logical to do, especially because they have a magnet in the end. That way they can assemble the end way easier than having to have like long utensils and tools and stuff like that. But it does look like when this was originally made on Kickstarter, it was actually milled from one piece. Now it is not. Very clearly. They really got to remove that branding or that marketing or whatever. Or even clarify, like, hey, the original was, like, if you get an original Mark 1, they were made that way. The new ones aren't. It seems like this piece also on the original was available in certain colors. This was not one of those. But even on the, if you get the standard, like, chrome color, it is just this, like, chromed plastic, I would almost call it. It's like a dimple in the middle. If it was milled, I'd be very highly sus. It's probably molded based on that. Let's call it a sprue, I believe. And you can see the difference here in textures between a DLC coat, which is like this dry, like chalky finish, versus like a sort of a matte or semi-matte satin Cerakote. Either way, I ended up getting, this is the aluminum one because it was cheaper, more available. I also didn't want to spend the big bucks on the stainless steel right out of the gate because they're more premium with stainless steel, but I do really like myself a stainless steel pen. Then they came out with a Mark 1 minimalist durable retractable pen, limited edition. Like, if you're running, this very much invokes CW&T's packaging. A lot of other brands kind of do a similar thing, but I'm trying to think of somebody who did it for pens prior to then. Not that you can't copy and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, here. I actually thought, like, oh, what? Somebody made a copy of this? Well, no, it's a click pen, which I find interesting. Like, I've actually brought up to CW&T before. Like, what if you took this design and you made this click and come out the end? What I don't get a little bit about Mark 1 is they made their own mechanism, and it's all aluminum. I don't know if I would have gone that route, but limited edition number 14, so it's their 14th limited edition, neon green. So yep, I'm keeping you at bay again, making you wait because we have neon green pens that we must use for comparison. We must. we have a neon green pen. And kind of like similar colors that aren't neon green. Okay, we got one pen. What was interesting, I ordered this back when I got this pen, which is the Monster Green Modal. It never shows up right on camera. It's so friggin' green in real life that it, like, because most cameras use the RGBG, so it's red, green, green. Oh, it's RGG. Red, green, blue. Yeah, RGGB. So it's like red, green, green, like red, green, green, blue. There's double because our eyes are more sensitive to green. They use twice as many green pixels. That is why on very green things, no bueno. Gosh. All right. Whoa, this thing's got some heft. Oh. Ho, 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 ho. Is that not? That is a click. This thing's a weapon. This is this iridescent you can see it on like my Xbox controller if you guys go and watch my custom Xbox controller. It's a very similar finish there. Probably to do this consistently, I wouldn't be surprised if they can do it, because this is like a... Hey, we don't have the sprue in the middle this time. And that could be like where they held it to and then cut it off for milling, but... Alright, let's pull it apart. So we still have their... They did, to give them, as far as I'm aware, they did make their own mechanism, which is all aluminum, which you think would... Well, that's lube. That is some kind of lube on there. So maybe they do get galling that I mentioned. So they had to lube it up. But you can see here that cap is just on top of this underlying mechanism here. I don't believe that's how it was originally designed. I go over that in my original video. Go check that out. Not yet. So we have a Studio Neat version of the Schmidt, what is it? P8126, I believe. Put this way, right there. Let's see if this one's the same way. And they do sell the refills themselves directly. Yep, this is also a Studio Neat version. Order more refills, studioneat.com. So they are trying to make money on refills. That body is definitely the Schmidt, P8126. I have to wonder if the one they include is a real one or not. I think I looked it up at the time. I may have mentioned it in my previous video. If you really go at it, this mechanism does hang up every now and then. That might be why this newer one has lube. This finish, though, is really nice. I would say that this is on par with the Modal. They are a very similar Cerakote as well, which is good because I like it. They're not the same. There's a bit more... like... This one's lighter. Like a little bit more yellow maybe on this one as well. in the Monster Green modal. This is like a really smooth finish modal too. And they went for this super smooth Cerakote finish on, because some of their other Cerakotes have been a little bit rough. I don't know if that's just been the person finishing it, or it's been they didn't tumble it enough first. Because kind of, if like, either you have to have a lot of Cerakote and you kind of build it up on the surface because it is a bit thicker of a finish, or it will actually accentuate any finish issues that you, maybe not issues, but finish things you have. Like it's not completely smooth. I'd have to use a borescope to really see properly down there. You can see a clear ridge. It's so bright green, it's hard to capture. It is a very similar color to the Monster Green model I have, and for those wondering, it's like, oh, how could they do that? Well, they're all using Cerakote. Everybody can just buy Cerakote, like, unless you're getting custom stuff done, like for example, like D-Brand, they get custom vinyl made by 3M in the past, like custom designs, custom colors. Heck, now they even print their own vinyl, like 3M vinyl. They print on it so they can just make their own designs. So I got kind of a standard one last time, you know, like the base. I think personally I would go black with silver top. I think I mentioned that in a video. And then the white with the gold top looks much better. But I wanted it kind of to match up to my pen type B over here. While not being exactly like it. I will say, for somebody who likes heavy pens, go with the stainless steel one. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's so heavy. I have heavier pens. Especially stuff in the copper range. But this guy's got some nice heft. And I can tell you at least how I write with the P8126. I like a heavy pen. One of my two of my pens that David gave me early on. One is a stainless steel glider from Tactile Turn. That's before their current design line of their revised bolt and stuff like that. That uses G2, but also fits like Euro 110 with slight modification. And then I have a EDK, not a V2, an EDK, and that was back when they would sell you differing metals. So I have the grip on mine copper and the top on mine aluminum, because I like, if you're gonna give me a heavy pen too, I prefer having a tip heavy pen. I don't like that weight waggling around up top, you know, because a lot of them, what'll happen is they'll be super light, like aluminum. Or I have the Ultim modal, but it's got a brass clip on it. Super heavy in the ass end, like it waggles and waggles, waggles around, right? When you're writing. In my opinion, you want the weight closer to the pen surface. So that one that you got me, that was, I think it's like a olive green up top. Great color. I like my greens, apparently. Even though yellow is my color, I have a lot of green pens. Often they go more towards yellow. They're green and yellow. But then it's got a copper base on it. That thing writes super well. I did have to massage it a little bit later in its life. Still, to this day, I grab that thing. But both of those use the P1826 or 827. P8126 is what I put them in. A little bit more, but that's much more bold than what I normally write with, because I normally write with like a 0.38 or 0.4, right? Having that heavier weight with these are capless roller balls. Technically, they're not like a ballpoint. They're not a gel. So they flow really well. If you get a nice heavy pen with that, let me grab a sticky note here. Look at that. And not that it's bad, but the weight of this is like half of that. It just doesn't have the, like, I almost want like a more precise tip on it, and for this refill, that's about as precise as you get. Is this the 6mm, not the 7mm, 0.7. Yeah, this is much more my jam. A lot of people on Reddit were saying, "Oh, the stainless steel is like stupid heavy. Nobody, like it's way too heavy. It's a super heavy pen." No. And I think it fits this. I like the really, because I write like my surface pressing. I press pretty lightly, so I like super light. Or like super smooth refills, right? Because I don't have to press much. And then if you give me a heavy pen, the pen does the look. I'm just like loose handing this, and it still writes. I'm literally like moving my elbow, not my hand, and it's still writing. That's the kind of pen that I like. Also, this is pretty well in the 5-inch range, which is what the modal is within, right? Now, that's the big thing that the modal managed to do, for those wondering, is the EDK is what Keros found to be perfect at 5 inches with their click mechanism, right? But that also uses the P8126 refill, right? The modal, however, and I've gone over in the video how they managed to make the bolt checkmark mechanism such a short throw. This uses a G2 out of the factory, and with no or very slight modification, you can put in a Euro 110 style, which opens the doors wide open for what you can use with it. Technically, on any of the I shouldn't say any, most pens that take the P8126, you can also put Parker refills in there. Personally, I'd probably take the 8126 over that. For those wondering, I think that was the slider from Tactile Turn, was like a thick or like a take on the jotter. So that's why I took Parker refills. Dimensions are a little bit differently, just because it takes a Parker doesn't mean it'll take an 8126, 27. Often it will, though, and especially if it takes one of those, it'll probably, unless the dimensions require that really long skinny tip and it to be square the rest of the way, or like the same thickness, it should take a Parker refill. But yes, this personally, if you're the style like me where you write very lightly, like your press on the surface is very light, and you like a really smooth refill, which this is, I like a heavier pen, and it's a heavy pen, right? But it's not like, I have some much heavier pens, usually stainless steel or even copper. You can't even hear it on the surface, like, versus. Now here's the thing though, this guy's aluminum. This being titanium, much heavier. Now this, because it's just a very skinny, light, thin tube, much lighter. Because you don't have the whole... This refill's gotta get going. There we go. God, the pen type A and B always writes so well with the Hi-Tec-C. Very few pen companies engineer as far as CW&T did with their pens, especially on their revisions. So You guys got to let me know what you think. What was funny is this literally had just come up or came in, I want to say, or was shipping here. And then I've been keeping my eye out. I'm like, if I'm going to get a stainless version, I want to get like a special one, right? And then this popped up. And they had like a yellow, but it wasn't like the sunburst or sunflower yellow that I normally like Keras did with here. You know, like that's the sunflower sort of yellow. Or I think it's called sunburst if you look at Rust-Oleum colors. It was more of like a very burnt yellow, like corn or something. I forget what they called it. Like it was more mustardy. Not my vibe. Then this popped up, and I've been digging the new iridescent stuff. I do think I think because they did the green on the lip here, so when it's like this, you only see like green with a hint of blue. That's really cool looking. For some stuff, it really does cheapen it though, because a lot of these that they do the iridescent on, it's like a cheaper thing that they try and like fancy up by making it iridescent. I do think though that like especially when it's clicked down where it's got the green lip on the top with like the blue going down, is a vibe. So be taking this into work tomorrow. If you want to see what the previous pen we opened up last night was, it was the Bernoulli Slim Bolt. Bernoulli X Tactile Slim Bolt. I kind of went over in that video on how I modify my Uniball refills to more easily fit or better fit pens and run a bit better. God, even compared to this, which is the UMR 83, which is the cellulose Uniball refill, is smooth, and this is a brass pen, so it's pretty heavy, right? This stainless steel Mark 1 is, with this refill specifically, it's just butter. Like literally that's just like, and listen to that. There's a little bit more. I mean, I did take it apart once. Let's see if we can get some of that spring out of there. And that versus it's got a bit more of a thock to it. Oh, the weight. What's the? Let's see if my postage scale can even figure this out. Postage scale is barely accurate enough, but 0.8 ounce for the normal one. Or it has to be tared because it's drunk. 0.8 is correct. And then it goes back to -2 tear again. Jeez. Yeah. So 1.7 ounces. It is twice as heavy. Stainless steel version, twice as heavy as the aluminum one. So, if you're like me and don't use a lot of hand pressure when writing, I would highly recommend, if you're going to get a Mark 1. Caveats in the other video. It is not a bad pen by any means. I feel like over time, since its Kickstarter ended, it has gotten more mass produced, which even CW&T stuff is, but that's still very, very hand done. I just feel like some of the stuff that's still up on their website may have been true during their Kickstarter, but then as they've come out with, think about this. This was limited edition number 14. They got 14 limited editions. I don't know how often they come out with them. That did take quite a while to ship. Like that's not usually like the normal pen stuff where like the pen's out and you buy it. Like they make so many and that's why it's limited. That was very much a pre-order. They might have had limited slots open. I didn't look too hard into that. Because like I said, I that one popped up while I was I don't know if it came in my email. I don't really subscribe to them because I don't like their pens. Like, they only make the Mark 1, the Mark 2, and I think the Mark 3 might be a pencil. Like, it's not... Like, you're going to buy one. You might buy a second one. If you really like it for yourself, you might buy one for somebody else. And we're talking... That's a lot of mites. Like, they make a... You know, some interesting products. One of their first ones from Kickstarter was this stylus that's like the size of a dry erase marker. Actually, the weight of it and how it works, super nice. If you just don't want to use your fingy. Kind of interesting. I think it's called Cosmonaut or something like that. Yeah, picked that up when I ordered my first pen. You know, so they're not like, and they're doing like this worked for them, the Mark 1, so they did variations of it, and I not really too partial to their variations. I think the Mark 2 might be a capped version, possibly space pen, and I'm not a huge space pen guy either. Even nowadays, I don't have as much use for the 8126 refill because it's bolder. I used to always use that when writing notes on receipts or when writing out stuff for customers, clients, that sort of stuff where rather than writing to myself, I'm writing for somebody else, so you're going to write it bigger, bolder, etc. And that was helpful. But I don't really do that anymore. I will say, though, that extra weight reminds me, this is where we'll leave off, reminds me of some of my guys right over here, the classics. They're kind of hidden. We got the, I believe this is the glider, stainless steel. There you go. And my EDK with the copper and aluminum top. Actually, I had to replace the mechanism once. Did it again too once I got the black one, just to give it a little more zest. But it's yeah, and here you can see I like weighty pens because full copper render K, full brass render K. Here's the original pen type B in brass and stainless steel. Yeah, so I'm getting definite vibes of that. So smooth, so little pressure needed, just the way I like to write. I may try, because I did make the switch from Tactile Turn, or what was usually called Switch Click. You can cut down a or a Uniball refill, or I think they did a G2. I cut down a Uniball refill to the length of a Parker, which is the same as an 8126. I just might be able to get it to fit in there. We'll have to see how that goes. Maybe I'll chop up a my cellulose refill and see how that goes in there. Let me know if you guys want to see that. I don't nowadays I'm kind of a bit more against refills, since I do go through them, but over time they're actually like the more expensive part if you only have a few pens, which is my recommendation. Like, buy one, maybe two. I like having a backup. Usually I go with ones that take either different refills, or if I know I like a certain refill, a click pen versus a bolt pen versus a cap pen, that take the refill I like, right? Keep that down. You just gotta keep buying refills for it. Don't be like me. And maybe I mean, the manufacturers want you to be like that, but well, usually your refills, or at least take the refills out, because they'll dry out before you get around to finishing them up. Hopefully you'll see you in future videos. Have a good one as always. Peace. Gertrude out.